Good afternoon. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in at the Voices podcast. My name is Arafat. Today, we have a special guest in the studio. Today, we are joined by Dr. Honorable Frank Habineza. He is here with us to discuss issues to do with politics, but also looking at him as a person. We are not just going to lean more on politics. Today, we are going to look at Frank Habineza as a person, but of course, we'll look a bit on the current affairs in the country. Good evening, Doctor.
Yeah, good evening to you too.
How are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for inviting me here. It's my first time, but I'm pleased you have a nice place.
Really? You like the place?
I like the place, and
Wow,
I see
thank you so
some
much.
animals here as well.
Oh, cool. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
I'm really honored to have you today in my studio. A lot has been discussed on you about politics and to do with current affairs in the country. I mean, can you tell us a little bit of who is Frank Habineza? I mean, when you're not putting on that hat of a politician, an opposition leader in the country, who is Frank Habineza? What do you enjoy as a person?
Well, thank you so much. I'm a family man. I have a wife and 3 children. I'm also a church person. I go to church, New Life Bible Church up in Chichichiro. I'm also a sportsman. I'm a member of Kigali Golf Club, so I play golf very often there, but also a member of the Falcon Golf Club in Rwamagana. I'm an athlete. I run.
So you love golf?
I run at least 3 to 4 times a week, between 8 to 12 kilometers.
8-12 kilometers.
Every time I run. So I play golf, I run. I also swimmer. I like swimming. So I'm a sportsman, I'm a family man, I'm a church person, and I have a complete life.
Growing up, where did you grow up from?
I was born in a place called Namtamba, Mitiana in Uganda. It's a very beautiful place with a lot of trees, a lot of forests, and a lot of wild animals and a lot of domestic animals and so on.
Really?
So we grew up in a place that was so beautiful. We had tea plantations surrounding us. We had a lot of cows, a lot of rivers, and so I used to like fishing as a kid. We could go fishing in the rivers, some small fish there. I also used to like hunting as a kid. We used to go join hunting groups and go hunting with them.
Really?
And go kill some animals like the antelope, and they had good habits, so they could share meat with everyone, even the children, to get a piece of meat. So I enjoyed fishing, I enjoyed hunting, among other things as a kid.
Do you still visit that place?
I do.
Oh, really?
I do, because I still have property there and also relatives there.
You know, when you are an opposition leader or a politician, most people tend to think that you're more into just politics. They tend to think that you're not a normal person like many others, like most of us. And we tend to mistake it that everyone sees you in a political attire.
Yeah.
If you are to tell someone who doesn't know about your life, I mean, your day-to-day work, what would you tell this person?
I'll tell that person that Frank Habineza is a very kind person, loving and kind person, caring, but also is someone who hates injustice. I hate injustice, and whatever format it has, things to do with any abuse of human rights. Whatever it is in its format, it's some of the things that I detest. And so we could be laughing, but I see something which is against the law or something which is abusing people's rights, then I wouldn't know how I've changed to fight for people's rights. So it's been part of me. But other than that, I'm also, as I mentioned, a sports person. So I also like to read books. And sometimes listen to music. I'm not a good dancer, though.
Okay. That's really wonderful. But let's talk about your party. The Green Party has been growing and placing members in government. I mean, what sets your party apart from other parties in Rwanda?
The Democratic Good Party of Rwanda is the main opposition party in Rwanda. But how do we become a main opposition? It's because we saw the policies of the ruling party and were not convinced with them. And we thought that they were not taking us forward at the time. And we also thought that we had better ideas that could also help the country. But also thought that we had much better idea that we can also lead the country to a more prosperous Rwanda. So we have differences, but the differences that we have, they are in line of the development of the country. So we are a party that believes in the grassroots democracy. Grassroots and participatory democracy. We believe that people should be given a chance to participate in all decision-making processes from the grassroots level. And so some people call it bottom-up approach. So the government likes to do what we call top-down approach. So they like to take decisions in the cabinet meeting or mayor's meeting or whatever, and then they tell people do this. And sometimes people do not have a chance to give feedback.
The voice.
Yeah, some people do not have a chance to give feedback on those policies, and they may not be happy with those policies, but they have nothing to do. So for us, our approach is different. We would prefer that if something would be coming up as a new policy, could you discuss it with people first? Could you hear what they think? And then you have their ideas into the new policy, and then we think that that would help to have a very accommodative policies that will also be sustainable. Because also being in sustainability, we don't want government to take up a new policy or a new law, and then people hate it or don't like it, and in 1 year, or 2-3 months, or in 1 year period, 2 years period, it is repealed. We would like to have laws which are sustainable, that can stay maybe for 5 to 10 years or more. So we believe more in a participatory approach of the people. That's what we call participatory democracy, or grassroots and participatory democracy. So that's one thing that we differ. Of course, we have a speciality to do with environmental protection. And which is also the name of our party as well. And we have different strategies that we think about, which includes green economy, green economics, green technology, many things that we think. And
but going back a bit past party democracy, where you want it to start from the grassroots.
Yeah. Excuse me. So we think that if you include the grassroots people from the ground into let's say policy making, that you could have some kind of, let's call it survey, getting the ideas, and you can also have some what we call focus groups. Let's say talk to university students, you can talk to traders, you can talk to many groups. It can make your policy or government policy very rich in ideas, that when people see their ideas to that policy, they will feel happy that this is our ideas, these are our ideas, this is our policy. So the ownership will be very easy. But if you don't involve them, people will detest it and don't like it, will not implement it, and then at the end, it has happened before, government will be forced to withdraw or to repeal that policy or that law, which will be a bad thing for the government. Government's petition goes down, but also people end up not liking the government because they think that it's not doing things into their interest, people's interest. They think that maybe government is doing things in its interest, but not in people's interest. So that's why we would prefer this participatory grassroots democracy approach.
So do you think they deny it intentionally, or why? Because if it's something that you believe can work, have they tried it?
Well, I think they have what they call district councils or what. So they think that is enough for having what they call JAF, which are district meetings. But for us, we think that is not good enough. But also, even when they have JAF meetings, it's more like a teacher-student relationship. You find that there's someone who's telling them this, and the students are like, can ask some few questions, but they don't contribute.
They don't
enough.
ask hard questions to see.
And sometimes they even fear to ask some hard questions due to some reasons, maybe. So we think that if you use different approaches, many people participate much more than making like a student-teacher relationship.
Oh, okay. I like it. So recently I saw you talking to different media about the taxes that were recently increased. And you are saying that they are imposing more taxes that are not necessary. And of course, when you look at our economy today, the country looks to be not in a good, it's not in a good system. I mean, you can see we've had so many people pulling out from the funding. We've seen Belgium, we've seen some other countries. And some are saying that the taxes are coming to cover up those gaps. But is it the right time to charge these taxes or to add these taxes in the country? What do you think about that? And why do you think they're not really worth it?
Well, first
imposing
of all,
these taxes.
We've seen about over 7 new laws about new taxes being introduced in Parliament. Some have already been put into effect. Others will come in a few months' time to come, will start being implemented. And the perception from the population has been very negative. People, like when they say they're going to put taxes on weddings, participants, that the bride and the groom have to give a list of people who are going to give them services and so on. I think maybe it has been happening before that. Some of the providers, service providers, have been paying taxes. But when the government insisted that you have to give a list here, who is going to sing, who is going to talk, who is going to when people in our tradition, when they are after they give cows, someone has to talk about the names of the cow and things like that. Then so I think people either misunderstood what was said, which is also a problem from the communicator, because if you are a good communicator, you should be able to give your message that people do understand it. Or also that they introduced new cultures which were contradictory to our original culture. So because if it's a hotel that has going to provide food, the hotel already pays taxes. That should not have been a problem. But people, we were not happy with the approach that the government used. So anyway, that was one of the taxes that have been talked about so much, but also the other taxes. So we think as a party, that there are some principle in economics. So one of the principal idea in economics concerning tax says that when you charge too much taxes, you lose taxes, or too much taxation kills tax. It's also in a French word as well. So it means that if you are going to increase taxes, people will end up evading taxes. You have more tax evasion because people will be fearing the new taxes, but also you have smuggling taking place. So the government, you who charges the new taxes, you end up losing, and you have a smaller tax base. So, but if you charge reasonable taxes, people will pay, and maybe you get a new tax base. People will come in and do business because I think people are happy to pay taxes. Even we, as a party, we support people paying taxes because we believe taxation is important for the country's development. But if it becomes too much taxation, then the country will lose, because we've seen them even running out of the country, going to other countries because they fear taxes. Not that those countries do not pay taxes. They also pay taxes, but they don't impose so much strict taxation policies that people still pay taxes and also can make a profit. So we want whereby the country can charge taxes, but also allow people to make a profit. Then people will be happy, and then we'll have a bigger tax base. So I would understand some reasons why the government is doing this or that, but I think the timing was not so right. Because people have lost some jobs, like the USID, when the government of America disbanded USID, so many people lost their jobs. And then with these other things of the some funding which has been either suspended or what, also some people have lost their jobs. So you find that we have some challenges in the economy. So we have many people who are unemployed people at the moment. So now if you, on that pain people have, then you also add in more taxes, then people feel like, for you, are you really thinking about us, or was it something else? So I think those who communicate or who do these policies, they need to do it better.
Going back to what you just said that about tax evasion, I don't think here you can evade that.
It happens. You just don't know. There's a tradition in town excuse me, that people nowadays, they don't want to bank their money.
Mm-hmm.
They keep cash in the bags, or they leave it in their shops, or take it at home, because they fear that if they put all this money into their bank accounts, then the revenue authority will see that they are making profits, and then they'll charge them more tax and so on. So people have different ways of tax evasion. And some people, when you go to buy, I don't know if it has happened to you, but it has happened to me. When you go to buy some equipment, someone to tell you, do you want a receipt with EBM, which is like a tax receipt, or without EBM? So, like, do you want a receipt which shows that you pay VAT, which is 18%, or do you want a receipt without paying VAT? So, if you are a normal person, you say, well, if some machine buys 100,000 and they tell you can pay 80,000 without whatever,
an EBM,
without receipt of EBM, most people would prefer to pay cheaper. So that's also tax evasion, and they say it in a nice way. That you as the payer, you feel that you are going to benefit more money. Why did you pay more?
No, seriously, I don't understand why Rwanda Revenue doesn't know this. Because sincerely speaking,
because you are asking something.
It is happening everywhere. It is happening on the shops. Because I don't know, why are they not scared even of who they're telling that? Because they tell it to everyone. They tell you know what? Tuguhereze facture cyangwa ntituyiguhe. Bashaka facture cyangwa
so that's tax evasion.
So I was like, someone told me, I was like, are you serious? Do you know who the person you're talking to? What if I'm from Rwanda Revenue? And he was like, okay, nibu from Rwanda Revenue, go nyine muradufininga, but I'm asking you, what can I do? So I was like, people are baba ibyihebe to the extent that they don't care, but they will have to ask you. Then ikibazo ni cyiza, they will cover it up, no problem.
So that's the good example of tax evasion. So when the people do that, it means that at the end of the day, the government will not get those taxes, intended taxes.
Okay.
So, but if they make policies much better, people will be happy to pay those taxes.
Now, we've seen that problem together. Sincerely speaking, like that problem of people asking you straight that, please, should I give you the EBM receipt or not? How can that one be resolved? Because there's a lot of money that goes into that. A lot of tax go
for us,
through that
that's
process.
Why we are saying that too much taxes kill taxes. This is a principle of economics. It's not Frank's policy. But I did economics. So that's why we're saying that you, the taxman, charge taxes, but charge reasonable taxes that people will not run away from you. Charge reasonable taxes that people will be able to pay and also get a bigger tax base. Charge reasonable taxes that people will join business. Because when they know that they get a profit, but let's say if someone is being fined 4 times a month, he's losing on that profit, and maybe in 3-4 months you see that I'm doing nothing, you close the shop. So then when you close the shop, the government will lose that tax base, that income which was coming. And if someone has a supermarket, it's not only him. There are also other people in the supermarket who are working there. Maybe 10 people there or 5 people there. They also lose their income. So basically, when you force someone to close down the business, it's not one person, it's maybe 10 people. And maybe the suppliers. Remember also the suppliers who bring the commodities and so on. So it's a whole chain which is going to lose. So the state will end up losing. So we think that whoever is concerned, but I would point at Rwanda Revenue Authority because the one is in charge, to revise these policies in collaboration with the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning to make it more favorable. Yes.
Is there any alternative that you think the government can raise money from than burdening the citizens?
Sure.
Because as we speak now, the tax base they are looking to increase. Everyone can see that it is somehow sidelining with the current challenges that the government or the country has. And it's not only in Rwanda, it's everywhere. Countries are really suffering because of the US side and these other funds that were pulled out from by the US and these other countries. Which other alternatives do you think can be really suggested that the government can raise money from without burdening?
It's just modest suggestions, because it's not my job to suggest those alternatives. But I would say, like, if you look into like our party policy, we have a section on economy which says that we can do more in tourism. tourism can be also a good source of income. But the problem is that we like to depend on traditional tourism, whereby we want to promote only the Volcanoes National Park, people to come to see gorillas, the Nyungwe National Park, and then Nakagera National Park, and that's it. But we have a lot of other things that people can see. We have to promote what we call local tourism or cultural tourism. So, say for example, if you go to Chirehe district, we have people, a former kingdom there, Gisaka Kingdom, whereby people developed what they call imigongo. These new designs you see, they have become like a trademark of Rwanda. But that thing started from Gisaka. Me personally, I went there to visit those women because it comes from King Chimenyi. At the time, his son was getting married, and some women said, "What can we do for the prince?" So the women went into his bedroom and sitting room and made those designs into squares and so on. And when the prince came, he was so amazed. He said, "Wow, my bride is going to be happy." And then became a national tradition in Gisaka Kingdom. So that's how it comes. But if people could go there, learn about that history, see those things, and make something big out of that, even I think people from China, from Europe, from wherever could come there. So, but also we as locals can also visit there. But also talk about Chirehe. That's a good example. It's a district in the eastern Rwanda. Those people go there to see the animals in the Kagera National Park. But if the surrounding districts have some things more to see, people will come to Akagera and don't go back and go into these neighboring districts. Those, I'm talking about tourists, even foreign tourists. They will go from Akagera National Park, go to Chirehe. They have some very beautiful sceneries, mountain sceneries, where people even can take these mountain motorbikes and drive there. But also some rough roads where we can take some good cars like Land Rover. I used to like Land Rover. I grew up with the Land Rover. So they are good cars, which these Land Rovers 110 or the Discovery, they like to be in the rough roads. People enjoy that because in Europe, people do not see rough roads. They want to drive in rough road and see how best it's very nice. Actually, it can even massage your back. But also, if you go up to Lusumo Falls, Lusumo Falls is a very beautiful place, but it needs to be developed. You have to put up some good hotel there. People to come see that water, how it is. People go to Bujagali in Uganda to see the falls. People go to Owen Falls Dam in Jinja in Uganda to see the falls. We have beautiful falls here in Lusumo, which people can visit. So I'm just giving an example. So you could do that in Chirehe. You can have something good also in Kayonza, something good in Rwamagana. We have had kings doing some landmarks there. So we are talking that government, can you develop local tourism? Government, can you do more even cultural tourism? The king stepped here in this rock. It's something people can go to see. And whatever, there was a queen here. There's this beautiful, wonderful girl, is it in Ndabaga? People talk about her. She did some fighting. She was a great fighter. And there are some heroes there, which there are a lot of things that. So go to other districts here in Kalonji, where, even here in Gasabo district, there used to be it's the best of the Rwanda actually. It started from Gasabo district here in Kigali, but it's not developed. If you go there, there's nothing to see. So if people develop it, there would be some restaurants there. There would be some things to see, some traditional houses, whatever. So you would be like you like going to the National Museum. You can find it there, and that would bring money to the neighboring communities, but also people will come there. So I'm saying that this is something that can bring more revenues to the country. But also as a party, we've been talking about what we call agro-processing industries. So we have a policy in our party that government should put up at least a small factory, processing factory, in every sector in Rwanda. We have about 416 sectors, if I'm not mistaken. So if we put up a small processing factory there, depending on what people produce, if they produce potatoes or bananas or fish or whatever, you put something there. And also a small technical college there that will train people to do those jobs. This will be, people will be able to process, have value addition on their produce, and to bring more money to the state. So I think these are things that the state can think about other than only looking at taxes. There will be other examples we can talk about. We can spend a whole night on that.
You've took me back to taxes. You know, Rwanda is actually, you've just talked about tourism, and I agree. They are trying their best to explore tourism, to have more tourist attraction. They are trying.
But they're doing the traditional tourism that I was mentioning.
Yeah.
Only targeting foreigners coming, but also only going.
They need to target local
only
people.
Going to 3 places: Akagera, Nyungwe, and volcanoes.
So what you're suggesting is that they can look into and find out more other tourist attractions in the country
And they are
that
there.
can attract even local people.
But also to develop the local districts, because if you want people to come to Chirehe to see those other things there, they will spend 2 more days. That means you have to have better hotels there. And if they have hotels, there will be more people bringing in food and so on. So there will be more development coming up in those districts because of those attraction centers. But also, we also Rwandans. I see a lot of Rwandans only go to Lake Muhazi in the weekends and so on. But if they knew that if you go to Lake Muhazi, you want to go only to the water, you will see something more in Rwamagana or something more before you reach Rwamagana. It's becoming a combined visit. And then to be a very rich visitor, you go from Kigali to Rwamagana and you can spend the whole weekend there. So people would like to see that, but we don't have those things here.
You see, Rwanda is trying to become the top destination, tourism destination in Africa. It's doing its best. But you've seen that recently they've imposed 3% tax on accommodation. How is that going to affect this goal? Or will it advance it, rather?
I think, again, this is one of the new taxes they have imposed or developed, which has also created mixed reactions. So what we think in economics is that as much as government wants more money from these lodges and hotels and so on, some of them have been already paying tax, which is VAT tax, maybe income tax they have been paying as well. So what happens that if you put new tax, it's the customer, the client, who's going to pay that tax. Because as a businessman, he's not going to accept to make a loss. So because they say VAT is paid by the customer, so when you add on VAT, the price goes high. If it was 10,000, they add on 1,800, so the price goes high. So if you put on 3%, it will be 21%, so the customer will pay more.
The end client is the one who pays
more. So what happens? If things become more expensive, clients will reduce. They will say, well, I think, why should I stay in a hotel where I'm going to spend more money? Let me just make one day visit instead of making 2 days visit. I go back home. So if they go back home, then there will be a loss to the owner, the proprietor of the business will have less clients, and then the government will lose. And then maybe finally he may even end up closing.
It's ignorance that we have. Most people think that these hotels, these accommodations are enjoyed by foreigners who come here to enjoy their money, to spend life in the holidays, and a few rich Rwandans who want to spend money in these big 5-star hotels and these other nice places. Why does that really become a burden to a local person down there on the ground?
Believe me, everyone who was born on this earth would like to have something good, to be happy. Everyone has that right, it's inborn right. And if people see electricity for the first time, you see how they even sing and thank sometimes the president that I touched on the wall and the light came and so on. Everyone wants to see something good. Everyone wants to be in a good place. Everyone would like to even go to the Lake Muhazi, Lake Kivu, or whatever. Everyone would like to have that. But why people do not go there? Because they cannot afford it, because it's expensive. So people would have to think, should I go there and I don't have sugar at home, or they need to send students to school and so on. So, but if you make it affordable, more people will come, because we're talking about local tourism. That's what I was mentioning previously. So local tourism, that's you are making people, nationals, like to go to visit their own things. But they will not go if it is going to be expensive. So you make it affordable, that people will go there. Then I think even if you had resources, not much, but if, let's say, those good hotels, they would be affordable. You would also like to spend one night in a hotel. Sure. Why not? But you can't go there because it's expensive. So the idea that this is for foreigners, for rich people, is not right. It should be something affordable even for the nationals. So that's what we're talking about. Those who set up prices, the prices go higher because the taxes are also high. But if the taxes become reasonable, prices will go low, and then there will be more clients coming up, and there will be more revenue for the country.
Dr. Frank, you usually talk about grassroots leadership, going to the grassroots and then get ideas and policies from there and then bring them to function. Is there any idea or policy that has been put in action that came out of local communities?
Sure. I'll give you a very good one. When, excuse me.
It's okay.
When we were developing our manifesto for 2017 and 2018 elections, we went around asking people, what are the issues that concern that, what issues would you like to get solved? So we got a very strong message almost from the whole country. People said, too much taxes on land. Land taxation is an issue for us. Government is going to take away our land, or is taking away our land because of land taxation. We want this taxation to be stopped, to be removed, and so on. So we had this message almost from every district when we were moving around. So this one example I'm going to tell you. We carried it in our political message about taking off the land tax, and it had come up in a law called law concerning the local district authorities, revenues for local administration and so on. That's where it had come up, whereby they are charging what they call movable and immovable properties. So that was the law. But because immovable property most states is either housing, buildings, or land. So people are more concerned about the land issue because everyone in Rwanda has registered the land here. So we put this up into our manifesto. We campaigned about it. We talked about it on radio, on TV, national TV, and everywhere. And we went to Parliament. Finally, we continued about it. And finally, even I had to make what they call a private members bill as MP, which I presented to the parliamentary leadership, and some technicalities there. But finally, the issue was that I wanted to reduce this taxation because it had been put at was it 180? I think I put it to 100. I've just a bit forgotten the exact figure. Okay. So then finally, the government previously it had been at 80 francs. And they increased it 300%. We have to verify on that, or we can verify and make a correction on that.
We will.
Yeah. So then what we did when I proposed to make it 100 francs at least per square meter, then finally what happened that there were some technicalities which I'm not going to, but finally the government accepted, the Minister of Finance, they reduced it back to 80 francs. From 300, yes, it was 300. From 300 per square meter. From 300 per square meter. So my proposal is reducing it from 300 to 100. So government accepted to take it back to 80 francs. So this was a big victory for the people. Yeah, and when that happened, and then also tried to exempt a lot of lands from being taxed for the people, whereby people felt a big relief, and then it became a solution. So this was one of the ideas we got. But not only that, but there was also issue of land ownership. There was a big problem here in Kigali and elsewhere that we used to have, in Rwanda we have leasehold policy, whereby the land does not belong to us, it belongs to the state, and we lent it from the state. We lent it and they still also pay taxes, which was a contradiction on our side. But even that leasehold was for 20 years. So you have a property on this land, but you only have it for 20 years. Most people maybe did not know that, but we got this idea from the people. They said, look, this land, I've been here for 15 years, I'm only remaining with 5, but I have a house of 100 million. What will happen? In 5 years, I'll have no land title because I only have this for 20 years. And I have maybe a loan in the bank. And after 20 years, that means you cannot pay, the bank will come to sell off your land, your house, because it's no longer yours. It goes back to the state. So there was no any clarity in the law that maybe to be renewed or not renewed or what. So we took this up, and our idea was to have freehold policy, which means that people should own their land fully, not rent it from the state. So this was our campaign message. We kept on that, and finally the government listened. And what they did on the leasehold policy, they increased the years from 20 years to 99 years renewable, which was a big relief for the people.
It was a big one.
A big one. And also, freehold is also allowed in the law. There are some conditionalities, but it's also allowed in the new law. So basically, these are some of the things we got from the people and became solutions. Even now became into laws, not just policies, but also laws which made some relief to the people. There may be some changes here and there, but at least that was some of the victories.
Okay, going to the social part, you've really much talked about standing for water, access for health, and other services in the country. Where do you still see problems, or where are we lagging behind in access to water and electricity and healthcare? And what is it that they can do now?
For water, we have specific issues that the infrastructure, even the infrastructure which has been built to provide water for people in the districts or in the villages, does not have water. So what they do is they make these pipes, they make these water taps, and water is only available for one day, the launching or the inauguration. But if you go back next day, there's no water. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's something you can verify. I'm not here to make lies or whatever. So because I've been given information by the people on the ground, but also in my previous duties as a member of parliament, we used to visit and we saw this happening. So we have reports as parliamentarians which were submitted to the government of this issue in Kalonji, in Gichumbi, in Lurindo, in different areas here. So the pipes become 1 year old. Actually, they start getting even old, staining, because there's no water coming up. So you hear issues about the district who is to manage the water, the subcontractors, the what, and so even the infrastructure is there does not have water. But look at Kigali. Maybe I was talking about far. In Kigali, it's the capital city, but in my district, I stay in Gasabo district, we have water like 3 times a week. So if
your district is
Gasabo.
3
times a week.
That's a norm now.
It's like a norm, and if you don't have a water tank, then you will be suffering a lot. So like those who have water tanks, water comes in, goes into the water tank. Sometimes you don't realize that you have a change, but those who don't have water tanks, they really suffer. And this is like a normal season, but it becomes dry season. You may get water once a week. And this is something I've been complaining about all the time, but this is like the norm. And if you go to the taps where people buy, and like in the coming months in June, Jerrycan normally buys 20 francs on the normal water terms. But in our district, in Gasabo, but I'm talking about for all of Tigari, sometimes the jerrycan goes to more than 100, even to 300 francs if someone going to bring you water to your home.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So these are things that really disturb me. I wonder why. Because even infrastructures are there. Even every time the government approves, the parliament approves new budget for water provision, you hear about this whatever water coming from Mujesera, from Nyabarongo, from where. But where is that the water goes? I don't know. Then also they have as issues of water leakage. Even the infrastructure we have, which is not properly maintained.
Manage it. Because you find a lot of leakages here and there. You find water's leaking and spoiled. And that's our money, people's money, which is also getting spoiled. So that's about what is available, which is still lacking to be properly maintained or managed, but also to be able to respect what is obvious. But also there are areas where there are no water taps or no water whatever, and where people still have to rely on some canoes or whatever. So that's also happening in the country. So we as a party, we've come up with a policy of standing for the right to water, that the government should be able to provide 5 jerrycans of water to people for free, which is 100 liters. So you do that?
We have put it in our manifesto. We've talked about it in the campaigns as a policy that we would wish the government would do, or if you become government, we would do it. But
5 jerrycans per family?
Yeah. No, per person.
Per person.
Yes.
If there are 10 people in the family, so that's 5 times 10.
Yes, yeah, because and a right is individual. You cannot. Maybe the implementation we can discuss about it, but that's first as a right. Yeah, we know South Africa has put up that right in the constitution, right to water, and they're respecting it. And Rwanda, yes, we want this issue to be discussed. Maybe they may not accept 5 jerrycans per individual, but if they say like, okay, let's do 5 jerrycans per family, that still would be good. I would still appreciate. Yeah, because but then if you put it in the right, make sure that water comes now, because we want this to be a right that people get this right, because we don't want to have these rights which have exceptions. This should be a right which is, because water is life. So talk about health sector. We appreciate a lot of work in the health sector. We have Sante do Sante, which are health centers. Poste do Sante, and Poste do Sante came from our political idea also. There's a health post at the village level. It was one of our campaign ideas. We appreciate that the government took it up. Though they have challenges in implementation, but good enough. It's there. So there's issue of Mituelle de Sante, health, community-based health insurance. So we say that it's good. You know, previously we had a lot of campaign on the community-based health insurance because people used to tell us that, you know, the local officials come, take our goats, take our chicken and so on, forcing us to pay and so on. So there was some kind of improper behaviors with the local authorities. But then the real issue was that people did not have the money to pay. But because also there was issue, people would still have to pay for children who are not there in their families. They have already gone to Kigali, and were still obliged to pay for that child who is also a grown-up child who's over 18 years old, could be taking care of himself or herself, but you're still paying for them as a mother or father. So there were a lot of complaints. So we took up this even to Parliament, and the law was amended. But another issue which was people were not able to pay at once this money. So, and then there was also issue that you would pay, but also take a whole month waiting to be treated. This was a very serious national challenge. So we pay, but if you're sick, you will not get treatment immediately. You have to wait for 1 month for maturity period.
But that was resolved.
It is us who asked for that to be resolved. It did not resolve itself. We got the complaint from people. We put it in our campaign message, and we took it to Parliament. And the law actually was made from the commissioner was deputy chairing. Yeah, so we tried to put those ideas there, and finally the government accepted that you can pay in installments. Also, you can get treatment immediately, and also if you have a grown-up kid who's not at your home, you can the parents can remove that person from their list, so they don't have to pay for that person. So there was some relief. So that's good enough. What is our message right now on health insurance? The big challenge that is there is that people say we cannot access medicine with Mituelle de Sante. So people who have Rama or RSSB insurance or MMI or whatever, these are other types of insurances, they can buy medicine on their health with their health insurance after getting
on private pharmacies.
Yes, because most times in the hospitals,
hospital
or pharmacies, or the how do you call them, health centers, they don't have enough medicine there. So they give you some medicine, but not enough sometimes, or not what we call a specialized medicine. So people would like they get treated because you can take some medicine and you spend a whole month treating malaria, yet you can have some medicine which can make you get healed in 3 days. Yeah.
So what you're saying,
what our message is, we want people who have Mituelle de Sante be able to have access on medicine, even private pharmacies, because the government or whatever pharmacies do not have enough medicine there. Or the medicine they give is mostly generic medicine, which is not too bad, but it takes longer to get healed. Yeah. So, but if you get to like those who have RSSB can access medicine anywhere. So this is like our new request or to improve on the health sector.
But also on the water, I'm also wondering myself. I keep wondering, why don't we have other entities, other people who are investing in supplying water? Why do they make it a monopoly?
I think the obligation is on the state body, which is WASAC. But also, I think in the villages, they do allow other investors to supply water. I saw that. But I think still there are some issues in management, in pricing, even where I've seen local companies being given a duty to supply the water, but they still do it badly. So I think there's more to be done, to be discussed about this issue.
So maybe my last question is, my two last question. The diplomatic fallout with Belgium could impact green projects. I mean, how worried are you about this? And what can Rwanda do to protect its environmental progress?
Rwanda, what it can do to protect its environmental progress is to look for other alternative sources of funding, because it was good that Belgium was supporting that, but if they're not supporting that now, we have Global Environmental Facility. It's a big fund from the World Bank. which was specifically managed by the World Bank. It's a UN fund managed by the World Bank, which is specifically there to take care of the environment. So the Global Environmental Facility also has a smaller branch called the Small Grant Program. Actually, used to be on the board of the Small Grant Program some time back, which gives like $50,000 to NGOs and so on. That's the small grants. But the big grants, they give even up to $5 million, even $10 million, and they've done it before. So I think that if there are some shortage of finances in environmental protection, the government should think more. Now there are more funds, even there are some climate fund, the UN Climate Fund Conference has introduced new funding mechanisms, but also have those traditional ones whereby the state can access more funding. So they should diversify, not to only look at one source.
My last question, you supported the government's response to Belgium, but also believe in diplomacy. What's the middle ground between standing firm and keeping development partner on board?
I think that it's important to have like your policies mentioned clearly, and your negotiation line or negotiation table. I mean, points that say that this is like, they used to call it a red line, that this is where we can stop, and this is where if you go beyond here, it is not good. I think we do have some kind of red lines in Rwanda, which we all know that if someone is coming to like question the genocide or minimize the genocide, then you are crossing the red line, because we have laws that punish genocide denial or genocide divisionism, genocide ideology. So that's kind of the red lines. And there will be other red lines people should be knowing, so that you can negotiate, but there is a limit. If it goes beyond that, then if there are issues of national security, this is like a principle. Every country has a right to national security or to self-defense, to defend yourself in case of attacks. So if you are attacked and people think you should not defend yourself, then someone who says that thinks this will be like crossing the red line. So I think diplomacy is very important, people to negotiate, to talk, but also knowing the limits that people can discuss in, and the compromises. But also it is important to have compromises. There may be some red lines, but also to have compromises. That this, yes, we know that's a red line, but can we have a compromise here? So diplomacy is also about compromise. You cannot also only stick on your own ideas. You also have to listen to the other side. So I think this is what can be done, or they are doing it. I don't know. We are not happy to see fallouts, like government has kicked out someone who has done what. It's not really present, because we know they can do better. But sometimes maybe someone crosses too much the red line, and it becomes too unbearable for the two sides to whatever. But we believe that even if they have like let me call it a separation, I'm not going to call it a divorce, they should be able to have some mediation again, and they can have reconciliation. That comes back to diplomacy.
As we conclude our conversation, Doctor, what mission are you now on as Green Party?
Our mission is simple, is to have sustainable democracy in Rwanda, sustainable economic development for Rwanda, to have full respect of human rights in Rwanda, to have a vibrant economy free from poverty, where people can really feel like we have a strong middle class. Because we still have a challenge that I don't have the percentages, but you see that we still have a high level of people who are still like poor, or who don't have enough to even feed themselves, and a smaller level, a smaller percentage of people who have like everything. So there used to be statistics before. We used to quote, I think it was from the Trademark East Africa, which had said previously that it was 15% of Rwandans own actually 75% of the country. This was from some data before. And what that meant that 25% of the economy was shared by the remaining 85%. So things could have changed now, because I've seen that the recent ESV from Statistics said that some people have moved out of poverty and so on. But if you go to the realities, you find that there are still people who are even educated. Young people want to work. They have finished universities. They cannot find jobs. You find those who have not educated so much, but who have energy to work. They cannot find jobs. I see them all the time on the streets trying to find. They want to work, but they don't have jobs to do. So we need to see that we can take away this imbalance, this economic imbalance that we have. Then this is like my dream. I want to see more people getting rich, more people being able to afford, buy a bicycle, you can buy a motorbike, you can buy a car, you can have your house, And sometimes you see that that if nothing much is done, people can lose hope. So we need to give hope to the people. And with our slogan, to be the light and to give hope to the people of Rwanda.
What advice would you give a young man out there who is not having a job in the country? What can they do by virtue of look, the way you can see, if you can see, because you see the country more in a big picture than many people?
I think that first of all, anyone should not minimize or despise any work or any job. This is the first thing. I know that you're educated. Sometimes you feel that this is not your job, but if you find anything to do, do it, as long as it can bring you money. That's the first thing. Because I see people who refuse to do some work here, but they go to Europe and do the same work they refuse to do here. And they do it in very hard conditions. So people should also think about what we call vocational training. Vocational training that, yes, maybe I did public administration as my first degree. If you cannot find a job as an administrator, what don't you think about something vocational training that you can do? Maybe painting, maybe welding, maybe something else that can bring you money. So don't you stick only on what you studied. Think more of what you can do. Then also agriculture. As I mentioned, it's one of the majority of Rwandans in the agricultural sector, but it's still subsistence agriculture. So we think that these people are educated. Don't run away. Can go back to do some piggery projects in the villages, some chicken layering in the villages. Even if you have 100,000, you can start from there. Don't look for big capital. But also, I have good testimonies with BDF, the Business Development Fund. It's a fund which is there to support young people and women and others to do. And people have not really exploited this fund. So if people can exploit it more, they can also get resources to do better.
It's been a pleasure having you here, Doctor. We don't take it for granted, and we appreciate. Thank you so much for the conversation.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Thank you.